Welcome back to the Structure Talk podcast. I'm Ruben Saltzman. I'm here with my co-host Tessa, and we have got a special guest on the show today. I've got Noah Gavic from Brothers Underground. Noah, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Fantastic. It's a good day. You know, technology glitches. We've spent the first 35 minutes of this podcast with me trying to get my microphone working. Why does it just stop some days? That's okay.
Hey,
We're here.
it was your turn because it's been my issues the last few podcasts. So thanks for taking my place.
we all take turns with this, but we're good to go now. Technology is working. Before we get into this, I want to give a quick shout out to our show sponsors, IEB, Inspector Empire Builder. I've been mentioning for the past several weeks that we got the big conference coming up, IEB Unite. And I just want a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. One of the things is going to be the power of connections. Main topic, everyone under one roof to grow together. And some key points, we're not going to just be learning from the stage. You're going to be learning with the people sitting next to you. If you want to surround yourself with people who are ahead of you or trying to get to where you're going, this is the event for it. So this is a huge conference coming up for home inspectors. If you're interested, check it out. I will have a link to this event in our show notes, and it is happening in Texas at the end of May. So that's what we got coming up. Noah, it's been a long time coming for you to come on the show. I think, Tessa, you got to know Noah a little bit before we hit record here, but Noah and I met through my church at this event we had going on, and we have since gotten to know each other very well. We've been doing a Bible study together at my house. Something, I mean, if anyone's curious, it's something called Every Man a Warrior. We've been doing this since September of last year, meeting together every week. We've gotten to know each other very well. But I have heard Noah's name probably mentioned a half dozen times since we first met by industry professionals, just bragging Noah up, talking about what a great company he has, how much they have to offer, and what a fantastic job they do. So it's not like we just happen to meet at church and I'm going to refer this guy and send him business because we go to church together. He has an outstanding company, and one of the best experiences we've ever had referring companies to do sewer repairs. So Noah, I wonder if you could just kind of take it away a little bit, give us a little bit of background about who you are and who Brothers Underground is and what it is you do on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, well, I'll try to make it short and sweet here, but it's a little long. Growing up, my dad was a master plumber. I worked with him in the field when I could. I was homeschooled, so it was nice because he'd take us on spots where we could go help him install.
Tessa's pointing me too. I was homeschooled too, yes.
Ruben, not me. Ruben, yeah.
Not me. So anyways, he'd take us on stuff. We'd be out soldering pipes for him and helping him. Okay, oh, he dripped, solder dripped here. Okay, now put the torch here. Okay, start prepping these fittings, flux these. So we grew up in the plumbing industry for years and years. So my dad had his own business. It was called Gavic and Sons Plumbing. He became a franchise called Benjamin Franklin Plumbing. So he got involved with that, and he actually got involved with a couple other Ben Franklin franchises. And their goal was ultimately to grow the business and then sell it. And so they eventually combined, and they were one big company. And so they started creating other brands. They had Blue Oxygen and Air, Paul Bunyan Plumbing and Drain came out of that as well, which I know you guys had Tim Hammock on the other day.
We did.
Yeah.
So me and him, I know him really well. He was my dad's company's plumbing manager. Now he's a general manager over there. But he's a worth of knowledge. He knows a lot of stuff. So growing up, I grew up, side by side working with all those people. And so long story short, I've been doing 17 when I was 17 when I started working for my dad. So it'd be 21 years this year here. doing sewer, water, plumbing. So before I left my dad's company to start our own, I was managing his sewer division. So that was, I don't know, we probably did about 5 million sales on the sewer side. And so me and my two other brothers kind of did all the managing of, I did all the office stuff. They did all the infield as far as the lining and the excavation repair. So it just kind of made sense. Long story short, my dad ended up selling to a private equity group, and it just kind of got to a point where it wasn't for us. And we said, you know what? I think we can do a better job and provide a better experience for those customers on our own. And so I don't have any ill will towards my dad or anybody at Paul Bunyan, because they still do a great job, but it just made more sense for us to move on to our own and kind of take the reins from there. So that's kind of the short and sweet of where I'm at. And like I said, been lining sewer pipes for probably, what is it now, 17 years out of the 21. So we've done that for a long time as well. But yeah, that's kind of a quick little synopsis of where I'm at.
Okay.
Wow. How many employees do you have at Brothers Underground, Noah?
Currently, we have 4 field employees, and then there's the 3 of us brothers, so there's 7 total. And then we have 1 additional in-house office staff. So
Okay. And you primarily work in the Twin Cities metro area?
We work everywhere. I mean, I've lined pipe all the way out to Chicago. I've gone, there was a school project out there. I can go into more depth later on that one, but that was interesting. For a swimming pool. I've done stuff down in Belle Plaine. I've gone all the way up to Duluth to do some mainline patches. I've gone out to Wisconsin. We lined a whole bunch of pipe for a school out there and took care of that. I've gone out to like past Belle Plaine, Shakopee. We pretty much go anywhere as long as obviously the jobs are worth it. So
sure.
Yeah. And do you do like government work too, or work for municipalities or anything like that? Or are you primarily working with homeowners and like on the residential side?
So I would say the majority of our work is going to be residential, but I mean, I do some work for some people that, sorry, phone here. They manage shops for Devani's, Burger King. I also work some mechanical shops. So we do a lot of repair or jetting for a company called EA Sween. They're, the Chuck Wagon sandwiches and all the Deli Express stuff that they find at. So we had to jet out their facility because it backed up on them, and they obviously can't have that. And so they have these water slices that are like, I think they're like 20,000 psi. They basically slice the sandwiches in half, and so as they go through the production line. And so we jetted their whole sewer system because nobody had really fully done that, and it took us a full day. Cost them a decent amount, but we had 2 jetters running at the same time along with a vac truck. We pulled out a 5-gallon bucket worth of hardware. There was a 22 millimeter socket in there. There's water jets from like the thing. Parts just fall off of stuff. And so we ended up pulling all this debris out of their line. And then they also had a snapped off cable retrieved out of the line too. They'd been there for, I think, like 7 years. So they go, we're not using anybody else because everybody else come up and got us draining, but they haven't fixed our problem. You've actually fixed our problem. So they call me back all the time because we fixed the problem.
Sure.
Wow.
Sure. And when you say you got a snapped off cable, you're talking about like a sewer cleaning cable, right?
Correct. Yep. Sewer cleaning cable that was down the line that had snapped off there. So we retrieved that back out for them.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
You guys have got some cool technology. Some of it might not be appropriate for the podcast. Like it's just you. It's almost like not that it's bad. It's just you have to see it. Like that robot arm that you and I talked about. I don't know. Maybe we'll get into it. But
sure.
First off, so your bread and butter is going to be repairing sewer lines. Is that right, or is it cleaning sewer lines? I mean, what's the focus?
Yeah, no, our bread and butter is repairing sewer lines. I mean, sewer lines are probably the majority of what we do. I would say that's probably, we'll say 80-90% of what we do. obviously, in order to repair some sewer lines, you need to clean them. So we'll also do cleaning if necessary for certain things. And there's different routes to go on cleaning as well. And then probably I would say maybe 2 to 3% of that we do is also water line repair or water line replacements. So the service line going from the main into the house, we'll repair those as well. They kind of fall in the same category.
Okay. All right. Got
Do you actually like replace sewer lines too, or is it just repairing them?
I'll do everything under the sun pretty
Okay.
much. So, I mean, if there's a way to do it, I've probably either done it or know how to do it or could
Wow.
figure out how to get it done.
So how do you figure out which one you're going to do, whether it's going to be a repair or a replacement?
Well, it gets tricky because at the end of the day, there's more than one way to skin a cat, so at the end of the day, you want to have a Swiss Army knife of different options for the homeowner or the consumer, whoever that is, if it's a business or whatever, and make sure you pull out the right one for them. So there might be 5 different ways to do the job, and this one makes the most sense out of all of them. So, there's the basic simple ways you got would be, excavation is probably the most common one, just as far as everybody understands. Excavating, you're going to be digging down, trenching a new sewer service or trenching down to the old one, replacing the piping, relaying it by hand. That's probably the most common known one. Then you would have lining, which is probably the more common now. That's basically what you're going to be doing is putting a sleeve inside of the old sewer line. Some people like to do it to a tube, but I like to almost consider it kind of like a stint. Makes it easier for people to understand, or almost like an inside cast for your sewer line. So kind of like somebody might have a cast if they have a break on their arm or it's on the outside of their arm. This is going to be a new one that basically goes in soft and then hardens in place just like a cast would on your arm, and basically creates a new sewer service all the way out. So there'd be digging, lining. Another one is called pipe bursting. Basically, you still have to have 2 access points for that. So typically, if you're going to replace or repair a full sewer line, you're going to dig down at the city main in the middle of the street, and you're also going to dig inside the house at the front cleanout or just outside the building at the footing, right where it leaves the outside of the dwelling. You would then go ahead and basically pull a cable through the pipe, a 3/4 inch steel cable, and then on one end you have a 30-ton hydraulic ram that'll pull on that cable, and the other end you have a cylindrical metal head, looks kind of like a cone, and then it's got a little grabber on the back that grabs onto the piping, and basically it'll pull through the old piping, expanding it out of the way, and it'll pull the new pipe through. So that's another method, especially like in areas where you can't excavate. Say there's like a front porch out there where like Minneapolis is pretty common for that, where they'll actually have the house kind of ends and then they'll have like a 10-foot porch coming out the front. And that foundation might only go down 4 feet deep. Well, how do you get to the sewer line if there's nothing on either way? Well, you're going to dig down inside and outside and you're going to trench across, or you're going to pipe burst it, or you would directionally drill it. And that's kind of another option there. So directional drilling is basically where you push these rods in the ground. So the end of the rods have like a duckbill on the end of it where it kind of goes like this. And what they do is they shoot them into the ground. So when they want to go straight, they take that duckbill and they just keep spinning it around in a circle. And they have a slurry that goes out the front of that and basically creates a lubrication as it's pushing to the ground. So if they want to pitch up, they'll put that duckbill facing up and they'll point up like this. If they want to go side, they'll go over here. So they'll just curve whatever way they need to. And they have these 10-foot rods. They have enough where you can go at about 11 degrees per rod where you can change the direction. So they can shoot down and then come up exactly where they want.
Wow.
Also, they can do that for grade if they need to for a sewer line. They can shoot back and then keep it at like a 1 or 2% grade and go nice and constant, and then we can pull a pipe back that way. So in certain circumstances, that may make the most sense. So like I said, there's excavation, there's lining, there's pipe bursting. I just talked about directional drilling. And then on top of that, there's other methods. So, there's, they call them SIPP, it's spray in place pipe. So it's like a coating system that uses either a polyurea based resin. So polyurea, the easiest way to explain what that is, those spray in bed liners you see in your trucks?
Yep.
That's made out of polyurea. It's kind of more of a plastic, but a little bit softer. So they have those or epoxy based coating systems. And that's more common for doing inside of a building versus outside, just because when you're lining a pipe, that liner material is going to go through and it's going to block off any connections coming into that, any Ys or any fittings coming in. Whereas a spray in place or a brush in place system will just basically, it's almost like painting on a pipe, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there's that method for inside, if need be. And then, there's other methods we use for like a hydraulic. So you can think about like a torpedo, but it uses air pressure to basically kind of plunk a hole through. So in certain areas where we just need to get from point A to point B, we might just go ahead and shoot ourselves a pilot hole and then slide the pipe back through. And that uses basically a pneumatic bore tool is what they call that. So there's a variety of ways to go tackle it. And sometimes you'll use 1, 2, or 3 different technologies or different ways to do it, depending on the process, what's in the way, what's the most economical, how much restoration is going to be needed after we're done. Okay, it goes underneath the pool. Okay, well, how do we get underneath the pool without causing issues? Well, let's drill it then, or pipe burst it. So it really comes down to kind of what's in the way and what's the best solution for it.
I've got so many questions.
Me too.
So, all right, Tess, we'll just have to take turns. All right.
Let's do it.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
Tess,
You first.
Okay.
Oh.
First off, does everybody have a Swiss Army knife that's this big? I mean, it's like you have to have invested in a lot of different material, a lot of technologies, have learned how to use all these, to have all of these different tools at your disposal. Is this common? I mean, does every underground repair company have this big Swiss Army knife of tools that you guys do? Is this typical?
No, I mean, the majority of the companies out there, they're going to have excavation and they're going to probably have lining. Those are the 2 things that are going to be options for them.
Okay.
Majority of the companies, they want to pick the easy jobs. They don't want to do the hard jobs. They don't want to take the ones that are a little bit more risky. So a lot of the stuff we do, it's the riskier things. Like we'll have companies, bigger name companies around town that still either refer us or subcontract us out for work. Because they don't want to dig down 20 feet on the middle of Portland Avenue, which is a busy street, and have to do detours or road construction. I mean, we did 4 sewer and waters for a not triplex, it'd be a quadplex, over in Hopkins, right off of Highway 7. I had to talk to MnDOT. It took them 3 weeks to get approval to even shut down that street coming in and off of there.
Oof.
And we had to, it's jumping through hoops. So long story short, I've done it enough times and dealt with all the different people and officials that I just know what's going on. So we can quote those more accurately. Like they're going to look at it and go, okay, this job here that I probably did for 40 grand, they're going to be at 70 grand because they don't know what they're doing. So they build in the extra just to make sure they're covering their butt.
Sure.
So
you're like the boutique of sewer repair companies. It sounds like you get all the tough logistical nightmare, challenging jobs that no one else can handle or wants to take on.
That'd be, I mean, obviously we like the nice, easy ones too, but yeah, a lot of the stuff we do, just because we've done it for so long, people will refer us. I mean, we got tons of realtors that work with us because they'll call us and be like, hey, I got a customer here. Their window's closing here on Sunday. One guy, he goes, I won't use anybody else than you. He goes, you pulled over on a Friday when you're heading up to the lake on Memorial Weekend, and sent me off a quote right away because I needed to get it taken care of the next hour. And I mean, that's just kind of what we do. At the end of the day, people have timelines and they got to get stuff done. So, I'll take a phone call on a Saturday, Sunday, say, hey, yeah, this is what you got to do. This is this and this. And a lot of times too, we've been doing it so long that we know the areas, we know roughly what the depths are. We can give you a rough estimate on where it's at. So people, especially for transactions, they want to be able to close on it. So we'll give, okay, here's a price. This price is good for X amount of feet, X amount of length, provided these things here, no hard restoration, no grass restoration. If you want that, it's additional. I can price that per, and we'll lay it out for them and just kind of explain like the pros and cons of what it looks like. And then they're able to at least get back and negotiate. And then usually at that point, we'll go out and do a site visit before we start the work and just clarify and make sure nothing's odd that we don't know. But usually anything that comes up, we've already usually prepped the client on and said, okay, this could be underneath the driveway. It might cause asphalt repair. could be X amount more. And so they're usually aware of it. So our pricing overall, even when we give estimates where we haven't been on site, is usually pretty accurate, just because we've done the work for so long. We know the areas and what's there that we can kind of, where a lot of the other companies that go, we won't give a quote unless we send somebody on site. And then it's $300 to send a tech out there to scope the line, look at everything, get you a quote. And so we've just kind of gotten to this idea of, okay, you know what, people in this fast-paced world, they don't want something that's hard and that costs them a ton of money. At the end of the day, we'll get you a price. Obviously, it's provided there's other caveats that are met, but we're able to kind of get them at least going and get them figuring out what they need to do. So when we go out there to finally scope it and verify, you know, we're already 3/4 of the way done. Then it's just getting that job finalized and scheduled. So.
Yeah.
Wow. Can you speak more to the pricing aspect? I've heard of the lining, and I've heard obviously of the excavation process, but the pipe bursting and the other technologies you talked about, that's new to me. Can you talk a little bit about kind of your pricing structure and how that works and average costs and everything?
Yeah. So tricky part on it. So I mean, excavation, that usually is kind of, I don't want to give all my tricks away to everybody, but but I mean, usually excavation, depending on where it's at, you can be anywhere from $250 up to $450 a foot to to dig and repair that. Lining, typically something like that, you have some low liars that are usually down like say $100 a foot, and then you have people that are up to 250 to $300 a foot.
Okay.
It really depends on who they are, and I'm not going to say who they are, but usually the people that you see with that pricing structure are usually the people you see on TV. If that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. They gotta pay for their overhead, and I don't blame them for it. But at the end of the day, you as a consumer pay for their advertising. So
sure.
As far as drilling goes, usually something like that, that's more of a specialty, and like as you mentioned, kind of boutique. That's more for areas where there is no sewer system in place, where wouldn't work to either rehab it with a liner or to pipe burst it because there's nothing existing. We did one over on Cedar Lake Parkway the other day, and the sewer line was shared with a neighbor. It actually, the two houses were built. One of them goes underneath the other one, connects to the sewer, and then that one goes out. They were ripping the structure down, and they were going to have this guy disconnected, and they were going to lower the basement down another, I think, 3-4 feet. And so his sewer would have been cut off. So we had to go and drill into the house, pull back piping, and then sit up farther on the other side and drill down, pull back, put a clean out access, because every 100 feet you're supposed to have a clean out access, and shoot him a new sewer line without having to trench in an area that would have been like, I mean, it was skinny. There was no place to pile dirt, anything.
Wow.
And I think, I mean, I came in at 25 on that one, 25,000. I think the nearest competitor was 40.
Wow.
So, I mean, if that gives you an understanding, it's just like I said, we've been doing it long enough that we know where our numbers need to be at and where we're at.
Yeah.
We're not here to get rich. We're here to make a good living on it. But at the end of the day, like I said, some of these other companies, they bid them high because it's the hassle price. I don't want to do it. And if they get it, they get it. And we're like, you know what? This is our everyday bread and butter. No big deal.
So I don't know if you can kind of generalize this enough, but like if someone needed to replace a sewer line and it involved like excavating, what's like an average like ballpark cost you think of that for someone in the Twin Cities?
And
my average
versus lining.
And I want to say, let's just say it's a house in Minneapolis or St. Paul, and there, you know, it's your cookie cutter neighborhoods. We're not talking about some 600-foot house in Wayzata, 600-foot line. It's from the house to the street.
Yep. So an average sewer line, I would say the pretty close to average is about 65 feet long for most Minneapolis, St. Paul homes. So usually something like that, if we were to line it, you're probably looking at about $8-9 grand to line that roughly.
Okay.
And that we kind of price that in a certain way where we price it a la carte, where we go, okay, here's a price to line it from the house out to within, say, 12 inches of the city main. And then if they want what we call last joint coverage or full coverage, and this kind of gets into that robot thing we were talking about, Ruben.
Yeah.
So last joint coverage just basically means that there's a connection right at the city main. So most sewer lines have what they call a stub coming off the main. So think of it almost like a Y fitting. Okay, so you have the normal sewer line running like this, and then you have another branch sticking off. And so that branch that comes off, there's going to be a fitting where that sewer line connects to that branch line. And so at that fitting, that's what we consider the last joint. That's the last connection in the actual sewer line before it actually goes into the city main. So that Y fitting, what we do is we kind of charge a price for that as an a la carte item. So say, want to cover that last joint to make sure you have no joints in your sewer line, because joints are where most of the problems happen on a sewer line. Specifically Minneapolis and St. Paul, most of their work is clay tile, and there's every 2 feet you're going to have a joint. The reason why people have sewer issues is because they have leaking joints usually in the sewer pipe. So think of it this way: roots aren't going to grow into a sewer if they don't know there's water in it. And so the reason why a lot of people have issues is because your pipes are leaking. And so people go, well, isn't that a maintenance thing? Should I just maintain it? And you're like, well, I mean, you can maintain it. But at the end of the day, you're kind of throwing money down the drain, reality. You're going to probably end up fixing it when you go to sell the house, right, Ruben?
Absolutely. I want you to talk about Golden Valley and a number of other cities' I&I programs. We'll get there.
We'll get there on that. So at the end of the day, with those older sewer lines, especially, that's where it's always great to have, Structure Tech come out and give you a camera inspection. But even new stuff too. I mean, we come across plenty of work that's, they call it thin wall PVC, and a lot of that stuff I've seen where it's just like the top's broken, cracked. I've even seen just shoddy work where, I mean, the other day I came across one and it had been repaired, and it looked like there was a square hole in the top of the PVC pipe. So it looks like they chopped a hole in the top to jet the line to clear it, and then they just put like a Fernco, like a rubber boot, over the top of it.
Yeah.
And this was at the city main, roughly, that I came across this. I mean, we've dug up other ones where there was a 6-pack of beer sitting on top of where we dug it up. I'm like, oh, wait, must be why it's failed.
Oh my!
So bury the evidence.
Exactly. So, like I said, bad sewer work is no respecter of age. Age obviously stipulates that the older it gets, the higher chances of maintaining or repair replacements necessary. But just because it's not an older house doesn't mean you might not have issues. I mean, there's plenty of houses that are PVC in Maple Grove. And I got one Apple Valley, Maple Grove I'm going to be doing here soon that just has one spot with root intrusions. And they're like, well, is that normal? I'm like, no, the pipe should be hermetically sealed, meaning that it shouldn't have any water leaking out of the pipe. It should be able to hold an air pressure test. If roots are coming in, you have a defect in that line. So with that said, kind of the answer to your question is more so is, well, hold on. What was it again? Do you want to say?
It was the pricing. So it was like 8 to 9 to kind of line a typical pipe, and then for excavating, is it more expensive for that process?
Yeah. So 8 to 9 would be to line it roughly on a 65-foot run.
Yeah.
The thing that's nice about lining is I can go from one access hole inside the building and shoot that liner. I don't need to dig another hole in the street. The thing that starts to stipulate pricing more so is when you start to get to depths that are harder to dig to. So most of our excavation, we usually cap it out at, say, 10 feet deep. A lot of other contractors will say 7, 8, 9 feet. But on average, a sewer leaving the building is going to be anywhere from 6 feet to 8 feet roughly. And then once it gets farther out into the streets, then you're usually looking at somewhere at 9 feet, usually on the minimum side, out to 35, 40 feet deep. I mean,
whoa. Wow, really?
Those are more of an oddity. Usually you'll find sewer lines anywhere from 9 to 15. But there are some really, really, really deep ones. And those are the tricky ones to do.
Geography, the topography and geography, if you've got like a cliff or a hill or something like that, there's a big drop.
Yeah, well, obviously sewer lines flow with gravity. And so when you're dealing with certain ones, if that house is already set down lower than the geographical area, it has to flow out. And so if you're down, say, in a low spot and you got to get a sewer line to flow, well, there's only one of two ways. You either build the gravity system to go down deeper and go out until it hits a lift station and then gets pumped back up in gravity. So that's how sewer works. Basically, it goes down gravity, hits a lift station. That lift station pumps it up, and then it goes down gravity. So you're constantly just going up and down, up and down, up and down until it gets all the way to the waste treatment plant. otherwise you have to do what's called a force main or a lift station. And that basically is, as I talked about, where it usually goes out the back of the house, hits a holding tank. Once that holding tank gets to a certain level, then it runs it and pushes it through either like 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches, high density polyethylene line all the way out. I mean, we've done some where it was like 400-foot run on this house, and there was not very much pitch between point A and point B. And so we had to do, like I said, this system that allowed it to basically churn up and grind up all the solids and then just pump them out. We did a job for St. Paul, or no, sorry, up at the St. Cloud hydraulic dam, the electric dam up there. They had 8-foot walls that we had to try to get through. And so we ended up doing a new system for them. They had a 2-inch pipe coming out, and we had to basically sleeve 1.5 inch pipe through that 2-inch pipe to get it out of the wall. And then we directionally drilled a new sewer line up to our other spot. And then we hooked it into this big 36-inch main interceptor and ran them out a new force main line, because the original line was like 400 feet long, and this one brought it down to like 125 feet. But back to your original question, I'm sorry, I'm getting tangent here, but these are all the kind of the weird random projects we tackle that nobody else, like I said, nobody else wants to go take care of. They think of trying to do a hydroelectric dam. So anyways, long story short, digging it's a higher variable as far as what the cost is. Also too, the aspects that cause more cost for digging are going to be your depth of where you're digging. It's going to be your obstructions that are in the way. So other utilities, hard surface restoration, so concrete, asphalt, curb, gutter, other obstructions such as trees, street lights, things like that. And so the other tricky part about excavation that's gotten more expensive comparative to lining is lining. You just need to know whether the pipe's intact and whether it'll accept a liner, and it's pretty easy, cut and dry. Excavation, you don't know what you're crossing until you've called in all the utilities to come out and mark what's in the way. You can pull a manhole cover and figure out what the main depth is by putting a tape measure down there and figure out what that is, but you don't know all the details. And so with that said, and there's also plenty of abandoned facilities in there, so they may put a new gas main in, but they're going to leave the old one in because it doesn't make sense for them to rip the old one out. So you could have 3, 4, 5 different other utilities that are not marked in your way as you're trying to excavate from the house out, that you have to either call to get verified, so it slows you down. And then also too, you could have tons of utilities all crisscrossing each other to the point where you can't even really dig underneath it. And that's where I directionally drill it. I mean, literally, you could have something going this way, another thing going this way, another thing. I mean, it's really common, specifically in like duplexes, to see a lot of utilities running right next to each other. So to give you an answer on something like that, as far as price goes, usually if you're doing a full line all the way from the house out, you're probably going to look in less than 12 grand, and it could be up to 20, 25.
For excavation. Okay.
For excavation.
But it sounds like that's kind of a dying art or technology. Like if you can line it, you'll line it.
I would say the majority of the time, yeah, lining is going to be the simplest solution to take care of it. The reason why it's the simplest is because you only need one access point. You don't have to create another one outside. So no matter the depth of the sewer, it could be 30 feet deep, you can line it from inside. Obviously, you're still taking a risk if your liner doesn't go around and causes an issue. Well, then you got to potentially resort to other methods such as excavation or pipe bursting. But those are ones, obviously, we look at a little bit closer and go, okay, this is a really deep one here. Or we have a caveat that says, okay, we know this will go around, no problem. Or we can try this. I mean, we've done a couple of times where it's like the customer's like, hey, I don't really want to spend the big amount. I'd rather try lining it. Can you try it? Well, we'll try it, obviously, with the indication that here's the price to dig it if we need to. And so we did one on Lake Street. It was Lake and like Hennepin. And we shot a liner, and it didn't roll as well as we wanted to. It hit a 90, so it was going out, and then it hit a 90-degree bend where it drops down, and it just blew that 90-degree bend out. And we told them already on the front end, hey, it might not work. And it didn't. So we had it ready to go for excavation the next day. But we were willing to try it for them, and we just said, hey, this is what's going to happen. If it doesn't, we got to go this route. And we've had other success stories where it's like, hey, we don't know if it'll work. We can try it. And boom, it went around, saved the customer a ton of money. And a lot of people, they go right to, well, this needs to be dug up. It needs to be dug up now. And then the customer's in for anywhere from 6 to 10 grand, depending on where it is, just to do, say, like a spot repair. and fix the
Wow.
line. When in reality, we could have fixed the sewer line, with a liner for that similar cost. And
Sure.
Wow.
they could have got a lot more done. So,
Wow.
everybody kind of goes to this idea of, well, your line's blocked up, we need to dig it. When in reality, a lot of times it can be cleaned to the point where we can repair it then and then install a liner. And liners are typically considered a repair method versus replacement, just because you're not actually physically removing the pipe. You're basically adding a
Mhm.
new structure to the inside. So going back to the price for you, like I said,
Yeah.
directionally drilling, that I think I mentioned usually kind of 20, 25, usually on the minimum side to do something like that, depending on the length. If you're looking at pipe
Pipe
bursting,
bursting.
that one, like I said, that one also varies too based on depth of the city main and what that looks like. But usually that's going to be a little on the higher end too. So usually probably no less than 12, maybe up to 20,
Yeah.
depending on where that's at.
Yeah.
And those are just kind of like I said, tools in the tool belt. I would say majority of what we do is going to be excavation and lining.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest one. But to have those other things in there are really nice to do in certain circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Depending on the
Yeah.
situation. And what's the average lifespan of a sewer line once you've lined it?
So it
Or
gets
do you guys
tricky
have
in
a
this.
warranty?
Yep.
I mean, like, is it
So we
once we
do.
put a liner and it's good for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years?
Yep. Yeah. So the industry warranty on almost all liners from all the different manufacturers is going to be a 10-year warranty on it. We
Okay.
provide a 25, so we cover the extra 15 years on there. Some
Wow.
people offer 50, some people offer a lifetime. The majority of those people that are offering those other warranties are also charging a lot more. They're getting the same end product at the end of the day. And as you know, Ruben, I mean, how long does somebody actually live in a house for? Do they usually live in a house for longer than 25 years?
Oh no, no. I think the old number. I don't know how accurate this is today, but I mean, I've always heard the average is 7 years.
So
Mhm.
at the end of the day, like I said, people are like, well, I want the longest warranty. It's like, well, are you really going to use the longest warranty? Yeah, is it nice? But at the end of the day, the products that we're installing are going to have the same average lifespan. So the minimum lifespan on a liner, depending on, I guess, the product we use is Permaliner, but they say it's a 50-year warrant or 50-year lifespan minimum on there, as long as it's not exposed to UV light. So underground, it's not
Mhm.
exposed because UV light can obviously break down material a lot faster. You'll see that on your
Mhm.
cars and boats and
Yep.
whatever else. It just wreaks havoc on it. So being that it's underground, not exposed to UV light, the service lifespan on a liner is supposed to be a 100-year lifespan. So
Okay.
should out
Wow.
surpass anybody else as far as I'm not going to be installing them at that point anymore. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean I don't want them to function and work properly. So
Yeah.
that's the other thing is making sure you have a quality installer to make sure that it's installed correctly so that it meets those lifespan numbers.
Sure. Okay.
Wow.
And can you just talk a little bit about Golden Valley and a bunch of other cities I&I programs and what you're doing to help with those cities? Because I got to imagine you're doing a lot of work in the cities that are requiring these.
Yeah. So back when I was working for my dad's company, we actually had the contract with Mounds View to do all the I&I work out there.
And
So
Can you
define
explain what
I&I.
ion? Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks.
So I&I stands for infiltration and inflow. Infiltration basically is where water leaks into the piping. Basically, it's clear groundwater that's leaking into the piping. Now, so that's inflow. I&I, infiltration and inflow. So, sorry, inflow is when you have like sump pumps or you have other drain tile lines that are draining into the sewer line. So a lot of like Minneapolis, St. Paul areas, you'll see when they televise a sewer line, you'll see what's called like a double Y. So it's kind of a Y fitting where two lines converge and come into the main line. That was obviously outlawed when they started dividing the sewer systems up. They used to be where stormwater and sanitary were all put down the same sewer. And then they started realizing that, like, why are we processing all this extra water? And so they started making it illegal then to add that extra rainwater coming off your roof. And so that's when gutters had to be put on and then pushed out to the outside. And so those old rain gutters are still, visible, usually sticking up on the side of the house. You can see them.
Yep.
But a lot of times, like Golden Valley, some of those other cities, I've seen some weird stuff where it's like they have the drain tile that actually goes to like a hidden bolt under the ground and then goes into a floor drain. And that floor drain ties into the sewer system. And so
Yeah.
they literally they run water in every single fixture in the house and make you check them all to make sure that everyone has water running out of it. And if it doesn't, they make you either find it or dig it up or line past it so that it seals it up, because they don't want that extra groundwater coming in. The reason
Wow.
why that is particular, so Met Council, they're the ones that handle the waste treatment plants. So let's say they can handle a set amount, 3 billion gallons a year or whatever. During the spring thaw and the summer rains, they have a lot more infiltration and inflow because of people discharging their sump pumps, people going ahead and leaking water coming in from the joints in their old clay tile or any asbestos or any of the old piping in there. And so 80% of the actual infrastructure is going to be private, and only 20% is going to be the actual city mains. And so the reason why this is such a big deal is because the cities get fined from Met Council based on the amount of overages they have. So they have flow meters that are basically on their main lines as they go out. So each city, as they have water evacuated or leaving their sewer systems and going to a Met Council main, they have these flow meters that'll check flow. And so they bill each homeowner. So each city will bill you on your sewer usage based on what your winter rates or winter usage for water is, because they're figuring in the summer that you're actually going to be sprinkling your lawn. And so they can't bill you based on that. They have to bill you on an average of what your winter usage is.
Sure.
And so each city has what they expect to say, okay, we say we're going to do, 35 million gallons of water in this specific time. Mount Council goes, okay, well, nope, you didn't have 35, you actually had 60. And so you got to pay us for the extra water that we're not processing, that you're not accounting for. And so each city basically will get fined based on the amount of excess water that they have to get processed. And so what they can do is Met Council said, okay, here's two options. We can either fine you and you can pay the fine, or you can take that exact same amount of money and put it back into your infrastructure and repair that infrastructure. So the majority of the cities, what they'll do is they'll start working on their own infrastructure. They'll line their own piping, replacing, repairing it, and going through and basically continually reinforcing all those pipes so that they don't leak, so they can cut down on the amount of I&I or inflow infiltration. But like as I mentioned, there's only 20% of that actually is going to be coming from those city mains. 80% of it's going to be coming from the private infrastructure. So the thing with the cities and creating these programs, it all kind of stemmed from Met Council, is by doing this now, they're basically requiring homeowners when they do a point of sale. So Golden Valley and West St. Paul are probably the two oldest ones that have done it for a long time, where when you do a point of sale, so if your house goes up for sale and you want to sell it, you got to go to the city. You do what's called an I&I inspection. They send one of their inspectors up from the city. He scopes the line. He sees if there's any spot where there's root intrusions, mineral deposits, active water coming into the line, or if there's any connections coming in that can't be verified, meaning water's not flowing through them. Those have to be either verified, meaning we got to dig it up and find that spot, or line over and cover it to make sure that it's not a connection that can allow water to inflow into the system. So we've worked in Golden Valley and West St. Paul for so long, and then obviously Mounds View, Egan. There's, I think, 14 or 15 different cities now that have adopted that philosophy, and it all kind of stemmed from the same model that Golden Valley started, where it's easy enough to do at a point of sale. So a point of sale basically indicates when that property goes to sell. Some cities require it to be done within 30 days. Some it has to be done at the time before the sale. Other ones, they make you put the money in escrow, so that way they know the money's there to have it taken care of, and it has to be completed within 60 to 120 days to make sure it's done. And the reason also, too, that they do it at that time of sale is usually when you have money changing hands, it's easier to pay for an expense like this.
Sure.
And so they've just found it to be a simpler method to do it at that point. And then usually like Mounds View, and I think a few others. So then they do what they call your certificate of compliance, where you're in compliance for up to 10 years, where you don't have to have another inspection done within that 10-year period. And then after that 10-year period, you still have to have it scoped again. That doesn't mean you have to have it fixed. As long as it's done correctly and not leaking, then you would just continue to be in compliance, and they would just let you sell the home again. So that's kind of what the I&I stands for, is infiltration and inflow. And it's stemmed mostly, like I said, from Golden Valley's model. But like I said, I've done tons in West St. Paul, Golden Valley, Mounds View. More and more cities are adopting it every day. And so when customers go, well, why should I do this? I'm like, well, you're going to eventually need to do it eventually. So You can do it now and reap the benefits of it, or you can wait until you're going to sell the property and then pay for it, and you
And
can
give
try that
somebody
way.
else a brand new sewer. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Okay.
And that's the cost of the homeowner then. They are the one that has to, or whoever's selling it or buying it, is it usually the buyer who pays for that or the seller who pays for these repairs?
well, obviously that can be negotiated at the end, but a majority of the time it's going to be the seller's responsibility to take care of
Okay.
that. And I would say, and we'll say 95% of the cities, the responsibility of the sewer line lies on the homeowner from the house all the way to the connection at the city main. There's a couple cities, I think Maple Grove, Shoreview, and then Brooklyn. I always forget if it's Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park, one of those. They hold the responsibility in the right of way. But the rest of them, it's you own the sewer all the way out. Every time I talk to a homeowner, they go, "What? Well, that's under the road. That's the city's responsibility." I'm like, you can call them, you can argue all you want. I'll tell you what I tell everybody else, and then once you get done arguing with them, give me a call back.
Yeah. Don't argue with me about it. I don't make the rules.
I'm like, I don't make the rules. I'm just telling you what they're going to tell you. So
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, Noah, gosh, I don't know where time goes. We're almost out of time, but two things. Number one, I teased it. I want you to talk about your robot and Tessa hasn't heard this story, but he saved our butts one time. We were doing a sewer inspection, and I don't even remember the details of what happened, but we were able to call up Noah's company, Brothers Underground, and they were able to get out there, like, I think while we were still on site. They came out and saved our butts. Tell that story and what this awesome robot is. What did you guys do?
Yeah. Well, so that story is actually a pneumatic grabber we have where it's basically got claws. So think of like a claw machine, like a candy crane.
Yeah.
Kind of like that, but it'll grab with 80 pounds of pressure, pounds of force. So we stuck that down there. I can't remember which inspector you had out there, but it was one of those caps that if you unscrew it just a little too far, the back will fall off, and it went down and around the corner. And I was like, and they're notorious for doing this, so it's not the inspector's fault. He tried to get it out nice and gently, and it just wasn't coming. And then he had to do a little more, and then it just fell off. So it was one of those tricky ones. So anyways, we stubbed this pneumatic grabber down with a camera, and we were able to get it in place and basically go ahead and get the claws on there and had the camera right next to it. We're looking at it and just grab it and then kind of twist it and pull it right out. But that would have resulted in typically like breaking up on the floor in a fully finished basement.
No way.
It would have probably cost a considerable amount of money to try to pull that back out.
Yeah.
So that's the benefit
crazy.
of that.
Yeah. Wow.
But our pneumatic, so our robots, basically it's almost like a big camera reel. And the end of it, basically, it's got a couple inflatable bags that will allow you to inflate and kind of keep your robot in position while you're cutting. And the end of it, basically, it's got, so it comes off like this, and you have like a cutting head on the end, and it can rotate like this back and forth, so we can go in and cut. And it's got a camera that basically points, and so we can see exactly what we're cutting. And we hook it up to air, and it's basically got an air motor that'll just go, and we just grind away at whatever extra liner material. I mean, we've had times where we've had to go in there and cut some pipe out of the way, or we have a cable that goes out of the pipe. Instead of having to dig it up, we'll go in there and cut the cable off, retrieve the cable, pull it back, and then line the pipe instead. Where everybody else is like, nope, you got to dig it, you got to do this, you got to do that. And so that allowed us to do a lot more. It's kind of just one of those Swiss Army knife tools.
This is laparoscopic surgery for drains.
I was just gonna say that. This reminds me of how technology's advanced, like in the medical industry for human bodies. And heart, stints in a heart, or if someone had a heart attack before, they used to have to cut the chest open it up, and it was big surgery. Nowadays, you just go in through a vein in the leg and do all this work. And sounds like that's how kind of sewer repairs have evolved.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to be a brain surgeon, then it turned out to be drain surgery pays more. So
I love it.
Oh my gosh. I know we need to wrap this up, but Ruben, I just want to hear one story from Noah. Can you tell us one really good story of like either fascinating or crazy, job that you did that you just couldn't believe? One of your favorite stories to tell.
Oh, there's a lot. One of the most interesting ones probably I came across in recent years. So we did it actually this last year. It was a church down right off of like Cedar Lake Parkway. No, Cedar Avenue. Anyways, long story short, this big, huge, old church, and I was cameraing the sewer line because they had a blockage and they created it, and the sewer went out underneath these big old steps, and there was really no way to go ahead and repair it. So this is one of those ones where you had to directional drill it. But I'm looking at this job going, okay, how can we do this? I'm like, this massive structure. I'm like, normally houses, you know what the footing depth is. So we had to dig outside, dig down, figure out where the footing was going out of this big structure. Because, I mean, it's a huge, like, massive church. And so long story short, when I cameraed it, I'm looking at it, I'm going, okay, this is supposed to tap a 12-inch clay main. I'm looking at it, and this isn't clay pile pipe here at the main. This is concrete pipe. So I call the city, I'm sending over the plats, I'm looking at it, I'm going, okay, I think that the sanitary sewer line is tied in with the stormwater. So literally they're putting raw sewage down the storm line, which just gets washed out to the watersheds.
Oh my! For a gigantic church.
For this big church. It's
Oh
a big
my
older church. Now they had 3 sewer systems, so not all of it was going out to that. 2 of the other ones are going out to the right spots, but this one line was one of the oldest ones, and it was going out to there. So we had to redirect, shoot a new sewer line underneath, and drill it all the way across underneath the 36-inch water main. Cruise across, tap into the new sewer line, which the 12-inch main was sitting on top of the other one. They were sitting right on top of each other, and so we had to shoot a new line with barely minimal pitch we could shoot. It was like threading a needle through there. And then we had to go in. I had to do a man entry, walk down into the storm sewer, and cap off the old line. So,
wow, that's wild.
Is that do you come across that often? Is that how the sewer system was originally built, like 100 years ago, 200 years ago?
well, like I said, a lot of them were built together. I mean, we could do a whole other thing on sewer systems, like St. Paul. Theirs is all sand rock, so they have tunnels that are underground, and those are all basically chipped away by miners. They go in there, and you can see spots where they've mined it away. And a lot of those holes, they don't even have sewer pipe. They literally just go down through what they call a drill hole, where they've literally just drilled a hole, and the pipe is the rock.
Oh my goodness. I think I've actually seen one of those on a house on like West 7th on the cliff where the
Yep.
sewer line just dropped directly down underneath this house into the rocks.
Correct. Yeah. So you'll see those, and
Crazy.
that's another. Those are usually the ones that are the 40 to 60 feet deep long. So
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
we need to have you back on the
Pretty
show for
wild.
part 2.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to chat about some of that. Well, last thing, Noah, anything that we didn't talk about that I should have asked you about, or any points you meant to bring up that we didn't cover?
Like I said, there's a variety of ways to look at it, and so I mean, when realtors call us or other people call us, we'll sit there and we'll have a conversation with you. If you're gonna buy, you're not gonna buy, we'll still take care of you. A lot of times, I might not get a realtor to say, "Hey, I want to move forward this time," but they go, "You know what? You're my guy. You're my guy. I want to call you because you guys answered my phone calls on a weekend, on a holiday. You took the time to walk me through it. It might not be the sale, but that's kind of where we get our bread and butter. Is we've just worked with so many people and we've taken care of them on that. So, with that said, there's so many ways to skin a cat. So if somebody tells you, "Hey, this has to be dug up," there's plenty of alternatives. I mean, we've come in on a lot of these ones where it's like we'll go in there, we'll jet the sewer line out and clear it out and get the blockage out and line it, and we usually still come in less than somebody that was just going to excavate one spot. And that's where, like I said, people they go, "You're my lifesaver." It's like, wish I would have known about you guys before.
Yeah.
This was very, very informative. Thank you so much, Noah, for coming on our show.
Yeah, really good.
I've learned a lot from you.
How do people reach you if they want to get a hold of you, Noah?
Yeah, so you can go to our website. That's probably the simplest way if you have a sewer need specifically. We have a contact sheet on there where you can submit for a quote. And so if you already have a video of the line, say from Structure Tech or another home inspector, you can submit that on there. We'll go ahead and review that, and we usually get back to you. It's usually within, we'll say 24 to 48 hours. If we're really busy during the summertime, it might take a little longer. By that point, just give us a phone call. Our number's on our website as well. That'd probably be the easiest. So our website is going to be brosunderground.com.
Okay.
So BROS. But if you search Brothers Underground, it'll still make us to the same spot. So.
Okay.
Nice.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show. And yeah, we'll have to do a follow up hear more stories, talk about other stuff.
Oh, there's plenty of technologies I didn't even talk about as far as the
Oh my
difference in
gosh.
lighting and all that. I could get into the weeds with you on that. So
Well, then we'll have
Yeah.
to do it soon so we remember. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you, Noah. And for the listeners, if you've got questions or things that you want to hear Noah talk about the next time we have him on, shoot us your questions. We read all the emails. You can email us at podcast@structuretech.com, and we will catch you next time. Thank you so much.